Hello, everyone. I am Krandall Brantley for Buckeyes Daily. We have a spring camp update, and Ryan Day expressed an idea that could fix college football. Now, this is from an SI article. Speaking on ESPN, this is football. Ryan Day floated an idea for fixing college football, a potential draft system. Now, Day said it's not too far-fetched to actually have a draft and build it like the NFL. He described the current state of the sport as chaotic, adding, "Right now, we're sort of in purgatory. With NIL, the transfer portal, and constant roster turnover, they believe there's a lack of structure and enforcement." He emphasized, "We've got to figure out an enforcement system." His main point, college football is at a crossroads. We always have to go back to where we were before or go all the way towards the NFL. So, there absolutely needs to be more structure in the sport of college football. Right now, like NIL, the transfer portal, not sustainable for programs to bring in like 40, 50 new players each year. So like coaching staffs, they spend years recruiting players just for them to leave after one season. It's not a stable system. And so, that said, a draft would not benefit a powerhouse program like Ohio State. Like it would actually hurt Ohio State. Like the idea of like lower tier programs, potentially like taking, meaning not recruiting, and they're not going out trying to get the best staffs and win on Saturdays, and they benefit from that, from getting 5 stars, like without actually recruiting them. That would change the balance of the sport dramatically, and the whole sport in general was built on recruiting, development, tradition, and like school history, all of that. So even if you make the draft like only Power 5 school, I'm not saying like a MAC team gets these 5 stars. Even if you make it to only Power 4 schools, you could have like these mid-tier programs going out and winning championships because they had these 5 stars because they tanked. And now you got programs or like fans of teams that are powerhouses that are pissed off because they're getting beat by 30 to like Virginia. Like I'm saying, like some random an average Power 4 program. And so that wouldn't really support the whole sport in my league. So yes, the sport is very chaotic right now, but a draft is not the answer. The NCAA needs to enforce structure with the real rules, regulation to control roster movement in NIL like bidding wars, without completely changing the sport. Okay, according to Cleveland.com, Ohio State's offense was missing a key element last season. Even Jeremiah Smith acknowledged it. Smith didn't hold back, saying, "We were the worst team in yards after the catch last year. We really had no guys who had juice when they had the ball in their hands." Stat-wise, he's right. OSU's top receiver trio, they averaged just 4.4 yards after the catch in 2025. That's the lowest mark for the program in years dating back to 2020. So 2021, you had the all-star trio of Garrett Wilson, Olave, JSN. They averaged 6.2 yards after the catch. 2022, this is a graph from Cleveland.com. 2022, Robin Harrison, Julian Fleming, Meke Ibuka, 6 yards after the catch. 2023, surprisingly, they had more yards per catch than the other previous years with Stroud. This is the Kyle McCord year. Marvin Harrison, Ibuka, and Julian Fleming had 7 yards after the catch. And then 2024, Jeremiah Smith, Carl Tate, Ibuka, 5.7. And then last season, Jeremiah Smith, Tate, and Brandon Ennis, 4.4. So it's dropped the past 2 seasons. So how can they fix this? First, based off the article, Cleveland.com, personnel. The additions of transfer receivers, Kyle Parker, Devin McEwen, both strong after the catch players, should immediately help. Second, emphasis in practice, Smith said, is making guys miss, running through a soft shoulder, highlighting what new receivers coach Cortez Hankton drilling this spring. And third, play calling. Hankton emphasized there had to be more opportunities to catch and carry the football. We have to be explosive on all levels. And Smith added this. That's something that you guys are going to see a lot next year. Okay. For that, I did not know that stat, and I was surprised that the Kyle McCord year was the highest from that level. But based on the highlights I've seen from McEwen and Kyle Parker, they are fast after the catch. Kyle Parker is a speedster, slot receiver. McEwen was a breakout receiver, UTSA, and you have Jeremiah Smith. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that Chris Henry Jr. is right after the catch from his high school highlights. We'll see how that translates early on in his career at Ohio State. But I think this stat will be closer to 2023 in the Stroud years for yards after the catch. They're already making an emphasis on it now, and they have the best receiver in the sport. Okay. According to Buckeye Huddle, Ohio State is reloading at linebacker in a big way, especially with Sonny Styles and Arvo Reese expected to be first-round picks, potentially both in the top 10 of the NFL draft. That's why that they brought in transfer addition from Wisconsin, Christian Alliegro, an all-conference linebacker in the Big Ten. Experience, physical linebacker, and he's 6'4", 241, already approved production and already honorable mention as for the Big Ten Conference. And so Alliegro, tough, physical, and battle-tested. He posted 53 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks last season, and he played through a broken wrist against Ohio State. Not a flashy linebacker, but he was reliable and willing to do the dirty work. Now, this material is based off Buckeye Huddle. He won't be asked to replace Styles. That role likely belongs to Peyton Pierce, but Alliegro can fill a role similar to Reese. He's versatile, can play will linebacker, blitz effectively, and set the edge in different defensive looks. So expect Alliegro to be a steady presence in the rotation. He may not match the previous stats that he had in Wisconsin, but he should bring consistency, experience to the linebacker room, something defensive coordinator Matt Patricia can rely on. Now, Alliegro doesn't have to be a superstar, but he just needs to do his job. He's already shown he can do that at Wisconsin, and he has better talent around him at Ohio State to play his role. And so I think this is a very solid pickup from the portal for Ohio State. And even more important now with Riley Pettyjohn out for the spring. You have the more experienced linebacker, and you have Peyton Pierce with some experience and potential to be breakout for the NFL. These two can bring the stability. Pettyjohn comes along and might be better than both of them at some point next season. Early signs are good for Alliegro. He lost his black stripe yesterday, 2 days ago. So definitely adjusting quickly to Ohio State. Okay. Ohio State defensive end Quay Russaw officially became a Buckeye after losing his black stripe just 7 practices into spring camp. Russaw played in 23 games over the last 2 seasons for Alabama. Started a few games, but he missed a lot of games last season due to an injury. But he totaled past 2 seasons 49 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Coming out of the portal, Russaw was ranked the number 63 overall transfer prospect and a top 10 edge rusher in the portal. And he's stepping into a defensive end rotation that includes Kenyatta Jackson, Zion Grady, and Bo Atkinson. So Russaw was the 5th Buckeye to lose his black stripe this spring, joining wide receiver Kyle Parker at LSU, safety Earl Lowe Jr. from Florida State, linebacker Christian Alliegro from Wisconsin, and you have true freshman wide receiver Brock Boyd. They've all shed their black stripes. And so that's more good news for the trenches. As they mentioned before, defensive line has to step up next season. So last thing, you have the Final Four tomorrow with two Big Ten teams in the Final Four. They have a chance to break that losing streak of not winning a national title since 2000 with Tom Izzo. It will be tough to actually break that streak for this year. Illinois, a tough matchup with UConn, and Michigan could be playing the best team still in it with Arizona. And so I get a lot of fans want to see the Big Ten break this streak, but I'll be rooting for Michigan to break that streak. That's not a win for Ohio State. So if the Big Ten reaches a streak, hopefully it's Illinois, not the team up north. All right, go Bucks.